Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Change Starts With Us, Ohio. Today we're with Holly Alston. She had a tragedy in her family regarding her son who was incarcerated and had some problems after his release. But I'd like Holly to share the story, and maybe hearing this story, it may help someone else. You know, um, that may be going through the same thing. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I would like you to share a little brief summary. How long was your son incarcerated?
A little over 7 years.
And this was in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah.
During that 7 years, did he have any troubles why he was incarcerated?
Well, the main issue, Terrell suffered from schizophrenia, and he had bipolar and other mental health issues. So that was, and that tormented him from the age of 5, unfortunately. But while he was incarcerated, they really didn't do much for his mental illness, meaning prescribing, medication that could help him. But during that 7 years, basically, they called me saying they had a warrant out for his arrest, which was a lie. And during that time, Terrell was raped. The day after Christmas, on which was December 26, 2009, Terrell was held down, and Terrell was in I can't remember the name, but basically he was the custody that he was in. He wasn't allowed to go anywhere or anything like that. But somehow a wooden dustpan brush appeared in the prison, and Terrell was held down, and he was beaten with that wooden dustpan brush, which then, in the result, he lost part of his vision and part of his hearing, and also it left a dent on the side of the skull. That was the first thing that happened.
Who did the beating? I don't know if I missed it.
His name is Christopher Ayala.
Was he an inmate too?
Excuse me?
Was he an inmate as well?
Yes. I can't think of the area of the prison that there's they're very secluded. For some reason, my brain is going to blank right now. But basically, protective custody. He was on the floor with other prisoners or protective custody. That was the first instance that happened to him. During that time that he was in Northampton County Prison, he was raped repeatedly. He was paraded around the prison naked while they would say horrible things about him. And since Joe suffered from mental illness and part of it was social anxiety, it was really hard for Joe. Joe was a very gentle person, and to hear people say horrible things to him was really hard. But one of the horrible things that happened to him, he was put in the same cell with the man who had full HIV, and he was so sick he had a medically inserted catheter. And one day, the guy, he was yelling at Terrell, got into an argument, and he spit in Terrell's eye, and he goes, "Ha, now you have full HIV." That guy, he was always in trouble with the warden. He was always put in the hole. But for this incident, they went and said that Terrell had did something to him when all Terrell did was push him, and they told Terrell, "You're going to go in the hole." And while that Terrell trying to say, he just spit on me. And here in Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's the same across other states, but if an inmate would spit on a correctional officer, that is considered a deadly weapon. But they didn't do anything with Terrell. They didn't give him any type of medical treatment, but then later they started giving him because they realized that the inmate had HIV. But Terrell was transferred to several mental hospitals during incarceration, and all they did, they really didn't do much with his medication. What happened was when the woman who lied on Terrell, her name was Crystal Hodgkins. I don't know if that's okay to put her name out there. She went and confessed to my other son that she lied on Terrell, and she didn't realize all this had happened. When we told Terrell that, she admitted it, we got his hopes up, but they didn't do anything about it. And what Terrell did, he started saving some of his medications that would give him. They would crush up his medication, and Terrell would somehow collect it, like in the pockets of his cheek, and he would save it. He was just so desperate. What he did was he saved enough that he overdosed on his medication. And the warden had called me 2 days after he was on life support. So that was another thing that they happened. I have found out also when they found Terrell unresponsive on his in the cell. They told me that he was hit and in his head, and which resulted in a broken jaw. So Terrell really couldn't really close his mouth anymore because they broke his jaw. I don't know if you have any other questions but
now all this happened while he was incarcerated.
In county prison.
County jail.
Yeah.
Okay. When he got released, what happened at that point in his life?
Well, what happened? They sent him. They really didn't want Terrell to get any information out. So they had expedited him over to state prison. I'm trying to think of the name. It was Retreat State Prison in Pennsylvania, and where he spent the last 2 years there. And during that time, they transferred him to different prisons, and that was his house, his home prison.
Right.
When he was at Graterford Prison, there was an incident that they didn't give Terrell any clothes. They put him in a turtle suit. A turtle suit is a very heavy smock. My son, he was 6'3" and a half, and he was, a fairly, big guy for that height. And so what they did was they gave him a small turtle suit, and it wouldn't cover him. And basically he was exposing himself, not that he wanted to, so it was very private. And so they would yell at him because, but it wasn't his fault. The turtle suit, that was a mean thing just to do with him. But after he got to his home in state prison, which was Retreat, again, Terrell, the staff didn't do anything about his mental illness, given the right medication, and he lost a lot of weight when he was in Retreat prison. He lost about 100 pounds. Also, they would just do a whole lot of things. They wouldn't. They just treat him horribly, and he would ask for help, and they wouldn't do it. And so Terrell was really getting desperate. He didn't want to be there anymore. But somehow Terrell was able to get plastic disposable razors. What Terrell did was he stood in the main area of the prison in front of everybody, in front of all the inmates and correctional officers there. And Terrell broke the razors in half. He swallowed 2 of the razors. And also then he took another razor and he cut his neck from ear to ear 3 times. Then he took the last razor and he cut from the bottom of his hand on the fleshy part of the hand, the palm, and he cut about 12 times all the way up to his elbow on both arms. They didn't seem to do anything other when I heard about it, and that's how I had my stroke. So I hadn't heard from Terrell for a very long time during December. So Terrell, he went to his cell. He told me he could actually feel the life leave his body, but they ended up saving him. And like I said, I didn't hear from him in a while. I heard from him the day after Christmas. And Terrell, his whole entire life, he never thought he was handsome. He always thought he was ugly. Terrell was a nice chocolate brown skin. He didn't like he considered himself ugly because he was dark skinned. He didn't like the deepness of his voice. And if you could see a picture of Terrell, he was very, very handsome. So when he called me, he said, "Ma, I made myself more uglier." And then he proceeded to tell me what he did. And I had a stroke. It was just too much for me to hear that my child actually swallowed razor blades and to hear that he cut himself. And then when I was well enough to go see him, it was so hard to look at him because you could see the stitch marks on his neck. And so he finished his whole entire prison sentence on August 8th. I picked him up. I was so happy to see him. I was going to say, I'm going to get him all the help that he needs. I took him to my doctor because I was concerned because I could see bumps. I could see his spine. And I said, he's so skinny. And my doctor had said, have you ever seen a dog that hasn't been fed for long and they starved it? How you see all the bones? And he goes, that's what happens if they starved your son. And what happened was, what led to his death, he went and said to my other son, he told him, he said, Amari worked at Walmart at the time. He said, bring me a whole bag of jumbo rubber bands. And then we both asked, so why do you need rubber bands? Because I just want to take, Joe is very, very neat. Because I just want to take my paperwork from the prison, and put rubber band and keep it neat. So we said, okay. And then he turned to me and asked if I still have my pill pressure. And I said, so why do you want my pill pressure? He goes, oh, I still want to take my medicine. I'm just so used to being crushed. So that day I saw Terrell, the last time I saw Terrell was on that Friday around 5 o'clock. And I guess I didn't hear from him. And Amari, we went to Amari and him had an apartment together. It was very hard to get an apartment because Terrell was what they said Terrell did.
Right.
So in the morning when Amari got out of work, unfortunately he found his brother dead. Terrell, at that point my son, who was also a firefighter, so he knew how to do CPR. What Terrell did, what he ended up doing, he crushed up his pills, and his body was rejecting that. So he had projectile vomit. So he was just vomit all over in the bathroom, up on the ceiling. It was a horrible mess. And then when that didn't kill him, what he did was he took a trash bag, put it around his head, put all those jumbo rubber bands around his neck, and he suffocated himself. But when I found him, like I said, he was trying to do CPR, and the mortician went and said that it had to be a really gruesome sight for Mari to find his brother that way. What happened when you have all those chemicals, not chemicals, but the enzymes that are inside the body that's supposed to break the body down when you die. What happens, Terrell got a blowout. The blowout is when all that bacteria comes out. It's not supposed to happen. So that was all in Terrell's mouth and everything. Right. So my son actually had to scoop out all of that to try to give him, the CPR. But unfortunately, it was too late. So Terrell, like I'm just mentioning, he finished his sentence on October 8th, and by October 20th, he had died.
That is so sad, and we are very sorry for your loss. And the sad thing is we can't say we understand how you feel. We haven't been through it, but we understand. And it's something that should not have happened. And I blame the state more on that, because if he was not put into the position and harassed and assaulted like he was, none of this would have happened. What would you say to a mother or wife that is going through that same situation now, where their loved one is getting bullied, maybe even raped, but they don't know where to turn? They feel hopeless.
Well, I would say to any parent, if you can find, if there's a prisoner advocate that's in the area, and if you can find that and tell them your child's story, and so that way they can investigate any wrongdoings or anything. I had a really good prison help me with Terrell, and he did everything, right up, any junctions or anything like that to try to help get my son out of prison, to show all the wrongdoings that they were doing. But so I would tell a parent to make sure. Also, unfortunately, there's a lot of crooked attorneys out there. So with a prison advocate or someone that is involved with prisoners, right, they can look through the evidence, well, not evidence, but the information, and find out if they're doing anything wrong towards the child. And make sure that you make a big stink. What I was doing while Terrell was in prison, this nice woman, Mary Neal, unfortunately she died, was helping me also. I was on radio shows. I would contact the press. I did everything to keep Terrell's name out there, so it would be very uncomfortable.
Right.
And so that's the only thing. It's just extremely hard. That's the only thing I can really advise somebody, because without them, unless I don't want people to think I'm a racist or anything, but if you are white, if you have money, you can get out of a situation. They would joke with my son, and he had a paid attorney too, when he even said that Terrell was innocent. But they were joking. They had, I can't remember the other two names of what they call it. The third sentence they would joke about was the nigger sentence.
Right.
So with the nigger sentence, you would get the worst. Any treatment, Terrell was thrown in a hole, I don't know how many times, and they would joke in Northampton County Prison that they said he would get the treatment. The treatment was when it was for all those prisoners in the hole to take a shower. A runner, and that's a prisoner that doesn't have like a really bad, they might have stole some drugs or something, so they have more access to things in prison. They would give a trash bag to all the prisoners, and then they would urinate or defecate inside the bag, and they would choose a prisoner that they wanted to throw it at. And unfortunately, Terrell, they would throw all those feces and urine, they would throw it at Terrell. Also, I want to mention, sorry to backtrack, but when he was in Northampton County Prison, they would keep Terrell in the hole for months on end. And the first time they did that, and the reason why it happened, some prisoner would say Terrell took his hot balls, like candy. So they went into him for 2 months in there. The warden called me saying, you had the visitation back, but your son looked very alarming. And so when it happened while Terrell was in the hole, he plucked out all his eyelashes and scraped off his eyebrows. So when I finally did get the chance to see him, everybody, during visitation, they see the prisoners walk in, and everybody could see how he looked. And so he was tortured. He was tortured for those 7 years. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast and this interview with you is because the very first year Terrell was in prison, he said, "Mom, please tell the true story. I don't want people thinking I'm the horrible monsters that is betrayed." And so once he died, I said, I really have to do it, but my health isn't well. I have to show muscular dystrophy. I have diabetic, but my diabetes is not under control. And it just worries me because Terrell really wants his name to be cleared.
Right.
And I just feel that he's not resting in peace because I haven't really been able to accomplish getting Terrell's name cleared, getting the true story. And what I've told you is just a little bit of what has happened. With 7 years of torture and wrongdoings that the prison system did to my son. But I just wanted to try to sum it up.
Well, we appreciate it. And I think your story is very important for the public to hear because it's happening in every state and it's always happening to someone. And we need to bring awareness out so that we could, try to put a stop to as much as we can. Sometimes you can't just because of how cruel people are in general, and the state covers it up.
Yeah. Well, sorry to break in. The other thing also, here in Pennsylvania, majority of all the prisons are all they're private, so people can pay on it. So they get like kickbacks. And that's another another thing too, when was a private prison that judges and everybody that get picked at, a lot of things will happen to prisoners and they won't get in trouble for it. Here in Pennsylvania, there was a judge a few years ago. It was called Cash for Kids, and they would get juveniles. Let's say they stole something really minor, and it wasn't enough for them to go to prison. They would send them to adult prison on the prison side, and the judges were getting money for that.
Wow.
So Pennsylvania is it's very corrupt here.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you telling your story today, and I would like to have you back one day because I'm sure there's so much more that could be said. And we need to start doing something about this stuff now so it doesn't happen again to someone else. And I think you're bringing it out to the forefront, which is going to help other people. You went through a tragedy, but you could be someone else's blessing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're really sorry for everything you've gone through, and you should not have gone through that as a mother.
Yeah.
But our world is a cruel and sad place sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
it's very scary.
Yeah, it sure is. But we're going to close for now. But we're going to have you back in the future sometime, and give me a call in a few days if you can. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate that. You gave me the opportunity to get my son today. I really do.
Well, we appreciate you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Folks, this is sad. Just like this lady explained about her son. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been in prison. I'm not. But he should not have been tortured while he was in there. Please check out our website at www.changestartswithusohio.org. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel on Change Starts With Us Ohio, and our podcast on Anchor, Change Starts With Us Ohio. Like our Facebook page. Again, that is Change Starts With Us Ohio, everybody. And we really appreciate you. And have a great day.